Great, but Sean, I'll kick it over to you to share your presentation you put together. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I'm going to pack a lot of information into a short amount of time here, and I speak pretty quickly. So if you need me to go back to anything, put questions in the chat, and I'll be happy to come right back to them. But as Stephen mentioned, my name is Sean Jordan. I am a full-time marketing researcher. I am not selling anything today. So everything I'm going to talk about, I use from free platforms that are available on the web. There are AI platforms out there that have been developed for marketing and research insights researchers, which are definitely customized to what we do, but I don't have any evaluation of those to provide today because I'm still using the free tools. So everything I'm sharing is in the spirit of information. And how I got here was a few weeks ago, I was on the MRX Pros board, and I thought, hey, I'm going to ask people, what are they doing with AI? And let's go back one slide. I was going to ask them, what are they doing with AI and what fun things are they able to accomplish in marketing research with this? And I posted up a list of some of the things that I have been able to figure out how to do in the last few months. And one of the things that surprised me was I got a few people that talked about some of the fun things they're doing, but I got a lot of email from people that were saying, hey, I have no idea how to use this stuff, and I would really appreciate some help. So as it happens, I was already planning on giving a talk at the QRCA later this year, and Stephen and Brian asked me if I would mind sharing a few thoughts with you all as well, since I've used a lot of these tools hands-on. And I'll mention right off the bat, I am an early adopter when it comes to technology. I love tech. I grew up, my dad's an electrical engineer. My brother worked in Silicon Valley. So I grew up with all kinds of computers and gizmos around the house. And for the most part, there's been very little technology that I have played with that I think most people are going to get that excited about. For example, a few years ago, everybody was talking about virtual reality, and Facebook even made a big bet that virtual reality was going to become the next thing for business. And I had 2 virtual reality headsets at home, and I thought, isn't going to happen. I cannot see people wanting to wear these for anything more than playing games, which is exactly what I use them for. So when I see a lot of new tech, I don't get too excited about it other than my own personal playing around with it. The stuff we're going to talk about today is different. I have not been as excited about this tech as I was since the first time I tried Google back in 1998. And my college roommate walked in the room and said, hey, you got to try this thing out. You just type in what you want and then click, I'm feeling lucky, and it takes you right there. And it was amazing because search engines at the time were so terrible that Google was a revelation. Well, generative AI that we're going to see today, the things that it can do from very simple instructions are just tremendous. But I'm going to give you some caveats. I'm also going to talk a little bit about ethics, and I'm going to give you some guidelines on how to use this both in your career if you're a marketing or insights researcher, but also just for fun. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to mention right away is you're going to see on these slides that I have these images that have been generated by some of these generative AI tools. And I picked the theme of cats because we have 3 cats running around the house. But you can see the prompt that I used to generate these images. And you can also see which AI generator created the image. And I think it's important to give credit to those because they're all a little bit different. I used Adobe Express to build the slides, and they have a cool text to image generator that you can use that's based on Midjourney, which we'll talk about in a minute. But this very simple sentence, skinny white cat typing on the computer in the style of a Wired cover magazine cover, generated this image as well as a few others. This is the one I picked. And right off the bat, that very simple sentence generating that sophisticated of an image is pretty magical. It generated some other images that were similar. They weren't all exactly appropriate for what I was looking for, but this one just really struck me. Now, as I started to look at it, I did notice there's a few things that are weird about it. Like this keyboard that the cat's touching is not a very realistic looking keyboard, for example. There's something going on over here where it drew a second monitor stand. I'm not sure why. And also the screen, if you can see, is just a little bit distorted in places. These tools, they're not perfect. They are based on an idea of trying to create things that look like they are reliable, look like they are constructed by a human, but they're never going to be exactly right. And generally with AI stuff, you're going to be able to tell right off the bat, it was generated by a program and not by a human being. As we're going to see as we talk about some of this stuff today, that's one of the strengths and weaknesses of what we're going to be utilizing. But the important thing to remember is that it does not require a lot of sophisticated skill to use any of these tools. We just need to be able to write what we want in clear directions. Those of us that are in the world of research, those of us that are in the world of marketing, generally, we're already pretty good at doing that. We know how to utilize search engines really well. We know how to give prompts to people to tell them what we need when we're hiring out work. So these tools almost feel custom built for us. So some of the tools that you can utilize, if you're generating text, the ones that you're going to see the most commonly referenced are going to be ChatGPT and then Bing Chat. So ChatGPT is kind of the elephant in the room that everybody's talking about, and that's because they released a version earlier this year that is called ChatGPT 3.5, which was significantly better than any previous version of what OpenAI, the company that makes it, had shown off. It was something that actually felt like, wow, this is a tool that really feels almost like talking to a human being. You converse with it in a chat room style. You ask it questions, it can return answers to you, you can give it directions, and it can create things for you. It's really neat. And over the last couple of months, they've released an even newer version called ChatGPT 4. What is bad about ChatGPT, though, is that it is limited to a data set that is from 2021 and before. So it doesn't have current information built in. And that's where Bing Chat comes in. So Bing Chat, I know most of us, if we use Bing, it's because we are using the Edge browser and we're maybe looking on Bing to figure out how to install Chrome on our computers, right? But Bing actually has a pretty good chatbot built into it that's based on ChatGPT. And one of the cool things about it is you don't need anything special to log into it other than just a Microsoft account. If you're already logging into Windows, you can log into Bing Chat really easily. And Bing Chat is additionally interesting because it is connected to the internet. So not only can it return prompt information to you when you ask it questions, but it can also search the internet and find things and give you references for where those things came from, which helps to fix one of the biggest weaknesses of the plain version of ChatGPT, that you don't often know where information is coming from. So a few others that you might check out: Perplexity.ai, UChat, and Poe. And Poe is kind of an interesting one in particular because it allows you to pick which chat engine you want to use. And it also allows you to use some that I'm not going to talk about today, like Claude or like Google Palm. I have not been tremendously impressed with Google's AI programs, by the way, that they put out so far. Bard was kind of dead on arrival. It doesn't work very well. And Google Palm has not really impressed me either. So we don't really need to spend a lot of time talking about it when there are better options. But ChatGPT and Bing Chat are the ones to definitely pay attention to. We're going to come back to them. But for images, there are an awful lot of generators. And again, with Adobe Express generating some of these images, they're using a tool called Midjourney, which Midjourney is probably the best in class in terms of the images it's able to produce. It also, at least for the version that you can use on the web, has one of the most aggravating interfaces of any of them, because you have to go through Discord, which is a gaming chat platform, in order to give it prompts. And the payment system for it is kind of complex as well. DALL-E 2 is the next one I would recommend, and that's actually created by OpenAI, the same people that make ChatGPT. And while you can get a paid version of DALL-E 2, you can actually use it for free through Bing Chat. And so some of the images you're going to see that I've generated came through Bing Chat, and I actually find Bing Chat generates the images pretty well. It does a really good job with them. Some others that you might check out: Stable Diffusion is one of them. Stable Diffusion has gone from being something that produced really unconvincing images to some really almost Midjourney level quality images. And the nice thing about Stable Diffusion is that it's open source, so you can do some really neat things with it without having to worry about the problems that come with uploading things to a private company. Adobe Express is actually a graphic program similar to Canva, but they've built in the ability to generate images in it. So while you're, for example, while I was creating these slides, I could just draw a text box and tell it what I wanted in that box, and it would generate an image in there, which is really neat. A few others that you might look into: Crayon. So Crayon also kind of started out like Stable Diffusion, where it generated images that weren't very convincing. They're getting a lot better. And you notice it's spelled Crayon with an AI in it for a reason. Playform and YouImagine are a couple others that you might check out. But I would really, as we're going to talk about, think about Bing Chat being your first landing point if you haven't played with this stuff, and then ChatGPT and Stable Diffusion as being your next landing points. Well, let's talk about how to use this stuff for fun, first of all. I'm a gamer. I play a lot of video games, so I always love to play around with tech before I actually start trying to use it for anything useful. And so when I started playing around with ChatGPT and with Bing Chat, I would tell it to write me stories. I would tell it to make pictures of crazy things. I would ask it to maybe write me a poem, and I would give it really complicated prompts. One of the things that I have found is that these programs are very good about taking whatever detail you provide and working them into the story, and they can continue the story for as long as you want it to go with a lot of detail. But they will also kind of try to stick to a sort of canonicity. So for example, one day I got bored and I don't know why, I had it start writing a Greek tragedy in the style of Popeye, just to see what it would come up with. And it was very concerned about making sure that Popeye never came off as a villain. So no matter what terrible actions I would instruct it to have Popeye do, he would always see the error of his ways and come back to being a hero in the end. Whereas if I tell a story about Thanos from the Avengers, for example, it knows that he's a villain and it will always make him come around to being a villain at the end. He's always going to undercut someone or do something terrible. So one of the interesting things about these generative programs is that they create this sort of reality within the confines of the chat that they're going to try to stick to. But I've had it create presidential debates between my cats and had different fictional characters come in and interrupt them and try to get them to answer questions about things. You can have ChatGPT or other programs like it write songs for you and even put guitar tablature in there for the different chords you might play. You can also have it write code for you. And that code can be very trivial, or it can be used for all kinds of different applications, as we'll talk about in a moment when we talk about the more real life applications of this stuff. But probably two of the more fun and novel things that these can do that you're not going to get from any search engine you ever might use is, one, you can tell it, pretend you are so-and-so and talk to me in that person's voice. So if you have a favorite fictional character, or if you have a person in real life who's well-known, like a public figure whose voice you really like, or there's a writer who you really like, if you want to say, pretend you're Ernest Hemingway and talk to me about fishing, it will do that. And it will go into a lot of detail and it will reference whatever information it has about that author to try to work that into how it talks to you, using similar metaphors and analogies and language that that person might utilize. You can also have it explain things to you, and explaining a topic to me like I'm 5 years old is a very common prompt, because it allows you to see just how simple ChatGPT can take a complicated topic like quantum physics, or if you wanted to work in a multivariate data analysis method, like something really complex or something like that. You can have it explain things to you in a way that is much simpler and easier to understand. And just for fun, when you're playing around with this stuff, you can try any of these things and they will last you for hours as you really begin to get into it and dig into it and have conversations with the software to see what it can do and kind of what you can get away with making it do. Well, let's talk about how to utilize this for marketing research, because that was actually what caught the attention of our folks here to have me come and talk today. And I'm not going to go over everything I have on this slide. I'm going to touch base on a few of these things, though, because these are just some of the many things that I have figured out I can do with these tools. Now, as I mentioned, I work in a supplier side firm. I don't work for Fortune 500 company. I do not have the limitations on me for utilizing these tools the same way that other folks might. But even so, I'm very careful about what I upload into these tools, because they're kind of a black box right now. We don't know what data are being used to train the tools, what data are being preserved. We have to be really careful that we're making sure that when we're utilizing these tools, that we're not uploading anything that we don't want some other organization to have stored on their servers. So anytime I upload anything, I always disguise it, or I always make sure it's data that I own, or data that I got from a public source, or data that I have permission to utilize. So I want to give that caveat to begin with. But with that said, I can take data just in columns in a CSV type format, copy and paste them into ChatGPT and say, hey, write up some summaries for me of the data in data tables. And I can give it just very limited instructions on what I want it to do. And it can come back and generate tables for me almost like that. And for those of you that have not used these tools, let me just say, even the pictures that I'm showing you come back usually within seconds. They do not take long to generate. And so one of the neat things is that if I'm just looking to explore some data quickly and I want to understand what the big themes are, rather than having to generate those tables myself, rather than having to create a pivot table in Excel or utilize a tool to visualize my data, I could just plug it into ChatGPT, get an immediate response about what is in there, and then know what I want to drill down on. It's also great if I'm writing an online survey and I want to put out an invitation that's really grabby. I can say, ChatGPT, hey, write a survey for me that is in the style of a millennial, and we get their attention. Not a survey, but an invitation to a survey. And I'm going to, make it email friendly, and I can even give it an example of what I want it to ultimately look like, and it'll generate something that is way more interesting and impactful than what I would have written. And I particularly love using it to write subject lines, because subject lines are what you really need to get people's attention with in an email survey. It's really cool what it can produce. And if I want to say then, hey, make an invitation for baby boomers, or make an invitation for people that live in the rural South, or whatever else I need, it can help me to customize that. And again, very, very quickly. If I have notes that come from a client meeting, I can input those in and get a quick summary of them, or I can distill those notes into research objectives if I need to. If I need to then turn that into a framework to write just a quick basic survey that we can use as sort of the scaffolding for a longer survey, I can have it do that. And I could do that all from the same input. I could basically say, hey, I'm going to give you some notes. I want you to summarize them into a single paragraph. I want you to write some research objectives based around these. And then I want you to design a simple survey based around those objectives. It can do all of that for me with one prompt. It's really interesting. If I need to do any secondary research, ChatGPT on its own is not the best for doing this. There's a way to make ChatGPT a little bit more capable here, but I can definitely use Bing Chat for secondary research to start with because it can search the internet. And so I really like using Bing Chat for that purpose. There's many other things that you can do with this as well, but I want to move on to talking about the ethics here for just a moment. One of the things here is do make sure when you are utilizing AI that you are letting people know that you're using it. You should credit it for the work it's done. It actually is going to make you look smarter, not dumber. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to credit AI. It's going to make me look like I don't know what I'm doing. No, it's going to make you look like you're making good use of your time and you're using expert resources. Make sure you credit it appropriately if you're going to use it. And that way too, if someone has an objection to it, it's out in the open that, this is what I used. There's no secrets about it. Also, think of AI as being like your assistant that can help speed up tedious tasks. It can help summarize things. It can help to write things more quickly. It can make your life a lot easier with things that are really tedious and that take a long time just to write out mechanically. But think of it being like an intern that you have to give a lot of directions to, because as we're going to talk about in a minute, it does not always generate data that are correct or accurate. And you have to be really careful about that. It's also good to use AI to check your work or help you rephrase things, especially if you're finding your writing is really repetitive. You can just plug in a paragraph and say, hey, help me rephrase this. And it can write something that's a little bit more optimized for you. And then creating more impactful displays or better data visualizations is really cool because there are ways to make ChatGPT do it natively. There's also ways to put in plugins. Some of the other programs have capabilities as well. But if you get tired of tinkering with Power BI or Tableau or Qualtrics or anything like that, and you want to just create things from what you want, you could just articulate that to the program in the correct way, and it can generate those things for you almost instantaneously. Just be careful you're not taking the humanity out of what you're doing. When you're getting hired as an insights researcher, you're getting hired for your expertise, and your perspective matters. Your insights are going to come from how you think about the data and you apply your expertise. Don't let the AI become a crutch for doing that. Take the time to come up with those insights on your own. It's also important to remember, like I said, things aren't always going to be correct or accurate. You need to check the work and make sure you actually are tweaking it and making it correct. But also be really careful if you're going to upload anything to AI chatbots or servers that you have permission and you are disguising anything just to be safe, just to cover yourself. I also want to say there's a lot of artists and copywriters right now that are really, really nervous about this stuff. Some of them are even suing ChatGPT's parent company, OpenAI, because they feel like their work is being taken from them and used to produce this stuff. If you would normally pay someone to do something, don't replace them with AI. Offer them the opportunity to show you how they can do better than AI. Show them what the AI output looks like. Say, hey, I need you to show me what you can do to justify what I'm paying you. Give them the chance. They're going to surprise you, and you're going to have a lot more confidence in them when you see what they can come up with. Humans are always going to come up with something that is more creative and insightful than AI is going to be able to. What AI is going to be able to do is produce cool shortcuts to some of those things, but not nearly as well a lot of times as the humans that you work with. Okay. Let me move to the next slide here so I can kind of wrap up. So if I'm recommending how to get started with AI tools, I would say start with Bing Chat. Bing Chat is really easy to log into. It's really easy to use. It's powered by ChatGPT and by DALL-E 2. It can create text and images really fast. And if you need something to do just for the lunch hour or this afternoon, go and just spend 5 or 10 minutes playing with it. You can do it on your mobile phone or you can do it on your computer. You will be surprised what you come up with very quickly in that tool. But just remember that it's kind of the tip of the iceberg. It's really limited in what you can input. And it also has a limit in terms of how long the conversations can go. So yes, you can generate really cool images like this Picasso style picture of cats here that I created. But also you have to remember that the really, really fun and interesting stuff, some of the things that I mentioned earlier that I'm doing in my professional life, you're going to need something a little bit more capable. And that for me has been ChatGPT 4+, which is the paid version of ChatGPT. It's $20 a month. It's definitely the buzziest right now because it's the one that everybody's talking about. And there's questions about whether it is going to be the one that's going to hang on, as time goes on. But for right now, One of the cool things about ChatGPT 4 Plus is that you can input data into it with a button rather than having to just copy and paste it into the chat. So there's a little button where you can add a file and you can put data in, and it can do a lot with that data. I've had it run clusters, I've had it run factors, I've had it run regressions, I've had it run all kinds of stuff. And it'll walk you through the steps of what it's doing, tell you the assumptions it's making, tell you how it's filling in data. It'll even write code for you if you want to output it to Python or something like that. It's really neat. But there are other plugins that can do all kinds of cool things, and I'm not even going to try to get into them now. There are hundreds of them, and they allow ChatGPT to extend into all kinds of different directions. So remember, with ChatGPT, the free version, it's fun to play with, but it's pretty limited. The paid versions is really, really powerful, but it becomes quite complex, and that's where you really need to look at some guides to see how to get the most out of it. Okay, so when in doubt, one of the best things about these tools, and one of the reasons I think they're so useful, is that you can ask them for help. So if you really are stuck on how to do something in ChatGPT or Bing Chat or any of the other programs, you can ask them, hey, how do I use you to do this? And they'll come back and tell you. They can tell you how to rephrase your prompt to get closer to what you're looking for. They can tell you how to instruct them in ways that are more or less useful. So it's really neat that if you need help using a tool, you can ask it to teach you. And you can even say, write a tutorial for me on how to use ChatGPT for marketing research, and it will write you one. And you can follow along with it and learn how to use it more capably. I recommend, for anything you want to learn, start with Bing Chat because it's connected to the internet and it's a great place to start. ChatGPT was briefly connected to the internet. They took it off because too many people were messing with it in ways they didn't want them to. Bing Chat, on the other hand, has some good safeguards. With all that said, so one more slide here. I want to thank you for your time. I crammed a lot into a short amount of time just to be respectful of the time that you all have today, but I am always here for questions. And I'm actually working on a more in-depth series that I'm going to be posting up on YouTube. And here's the first video. I just put it in the chat that you can check out if you want to see a live demo of some of this stuff and how I'm utilizing it. But I'm here. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I can answer them today, or you can email me or call me anytime. I'd love to be able to help you to learn to use these tools more capably. And I also would love to see what you're doing with them so I can learn more about them, because I think one of the things about these tools is over the next few years, we're all going to be learning a lot about them, and they're going to become a standard to us as using Google or as using social media or any of the other things that we've gotten used to using over the last decade and a half. Thank you for your time, and I'll turn things back over to our presenters here.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Thank you for that. It's just amazing. Thank you for giving this a link to follow as well with more resources, and for really just opening the book and showing us a little bit about what you're doing there. Stephen, I didn't know if you had anything else to
No, that was great. Thank you so much, Sean. And we'll have these slides available afterwards. I know lots of materials and sources there that people want to follow up with. So really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's good to see everybody back in the group. Thanks, Stephen, for getting this thing going. And if you want to connect with each other, please do so directly in the ICN member group. You can find that online. Now that I messed up the slide. You can find that ICN member group. It's the only place where you can talk to ICN members. Here's the link again for that bootleg session. You can find that online. You can find a recording of the last AI session as well right there. And then if you it can be kind of hectic to keep checking your job seeker list, your job opportunities list, the ones that we've created, because we keep getting, it keeps growing every time. So you remember, you can set these notifications. Again, help us spread the word. There's one other thing I wanted to share with you, and that is, I don't have a slide for it. We've been doing the sharing people's profiles. If you're looking for work, if you want to have your profile share it out to the Insights Career Network community, contact me. It's called the Active Insights Job Seeker Profile Sharing Campaign. Let me know, and we will create that profile for you. I will give you a couple more links before you go, because I forgot to give those to you. And here they are. Again, it was great to see everybody again. And I look forward to connecting with you, okay? Have a great week.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.